Hello there, TNA fam. How's it going for today? And we're back at the Impact Zone podcast again to talk about more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And today I want to talk about AI in wrestling. So this has come out a while ago, or a fair while ago, I think actually now, but WWE is using AI to help with like build storylines and things like that. So I think that should other companies and other places use this to help them with booking of matches, booking of storylines, or even just like coming up with like general ideas or general themes or, what have you. I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think that it can like ever completely replace people, but just like giving you an ideas base or just giving you like a basis of like these are the sorts of things that would be thought about isn't a bad idea. Hey, here's this idea. What would be a good WrestleMania match for this person? What would be a good retirement tour or retirement match for this person? That sort of thing. I think that using, or even just saying, okay, we have this new wrestler or whatever. How can we market that wrestler? What are other ways we can, like, even just saying that same thing for the company overall? We are, like, how can TNA Wrestling, and we could do this as creators ourselves or as fans ourselves, like, ask AI, how can TNA become a bigger property? How can they expand their markets? What are the best markets that they could get into in terms of streaming, TV deals, etc., whatever else it is? What are 10 indie wrestler picks that TNA could pick up that would help build the company, and or ex-WWE stars that would fit into the company and would help build the profile of TNA? Those sorts of things. I could do those sorts of things here as well, saying, hey, let's do a top 10 list, or let's, discuss this. I've never really done top 10 lists or whatever else, that sort of thing on this channel. And that's been like one of the reasons. It's really hard to like research these sorts of things and come up with a, 10-point bullet point of these are the 10 wrestlers, or these are the 10 storylines, or these are the 10 moments, or whatever. Plus, again, it's one of those things that a lot of people do top 10 lists or whatever else it is, but they are very popular, and I understand why they are, but I don't want to ever feel like I'm copying somebody else or whatever. These ideas didn't really come from me, but if I ask AI, did it really come from me, or am I just parroting whatever the AI says, but does the AI actually know best, sort of thing. So yeah, there's lots of things that AI could help with in terms of these sorts of things. And again, like if you guys don't know, I've got several other YouTube channels, but they could help me with a bunch of my other YouTube channels, honestly. So using it for different things, using AI to help you with different things, I don't think that is bad, because like, at the end of the day, also, the thing is, like, basically every idea has been done. It's just the new people, only the names have changed. It still remains the same, so to speak, as Bon Jovi once said. Like, we have done everything, like, realistically in wrestling. Every story, every idea has pretty much been done. It's just new guys, new gals, or whatever that are taking up the mantle now, like Obafemi or like Trick Williams or whoever. Everything that they're doing has probably been done once before or twice before, or probably even a million times before. All these storylines, all these moments, all these matches that, like, yes, you could say Obafemi and Trick Williams haven't ever, like, maybe they have wrestled 50 times or whatever it is. I don't know. But, like, the first time that they wrestled, it hadn't happened before. But any time that a babyface wrestler and a heel wrestler wrestle, that's happened millions of times. And the idea of this specific person being, more different or whatever, these two black guys. I don't want to sound racist there or whatever, but I don't know what other African American or whatever. I don't really think African American is a real thing, but whatever. They are Americans and they are African descendants, I guess, but whatever. But any other time you say African something or other or whatever, technically speaking, we're all Africans because like everyone descended from an original population coming out of Africa, but whatever. But anyway, thing is, again, you look at saying these sorts of things have happened throughout wrestling history. These sorts of feuds, these angles, they're not really that much different than what they were, 10, 20, 30 years ago or whatever it was. Yes, the wrestling in the ring might have evolved in those last few years especially or whatnot, but still, like even now, like wrestling has stagnated into certain styles, making certain fights and things like that, not really, that much innovation, and there isn't that much more that you can really do in the world of professional wrestling. Like there's always those dangerous things that you can do, and maybe that's the spectacle of seeing this for the first time in a long time or whatever, but there's not very much untouched ground, really. So saying, okay, what are some storylines or what are some ideas, just to say, okay, let's give us a ballpark or let's give us something to work with, because like coming up with ideas can be difficult. Like, okay, at least we have like maybe a framework for this or some sort of framework for this feud that we're going to have. Okay, so now let's write a feud that, like ask AI. AI, write a feud that is between John Cena and Obafemi that goes from SummerSlam to X date or whatever, or that, whatever it is. Any point to any other point, and any wrestler with any other wrestler from point A to point B or whatever. Write a Royal Rumble story for this person, that person, from Royal Rumble to WrestleMania, where they win the title, feuding against X, Y, and Z, or whatever. Same for TNA. Like, that's one thing that I think, like I've said it before and say it again, they need to focus in on. Like, they need to have lots of long-term plans, not just one long-term plan. And perhaps, yes, a lot of injuries have, stagnated that or not been able to, follow through with all of that or what have you. But just having a name on the board or having an idea there, this person with this person at this time. Okay, that sounds interesting. Or what have you. Rematch of this person and that person at this point. Okay, yeah, of course we were thinking about that. But, like, how do we actually get there? So let's go write a, rematch storyline between Mike Santana and Mustafa Ali to happen. I can't remember when their first match was. I can't remember, guys. But whatever was their first match. A rematch at the same event. In the maybe even in the same venue, in the same arena or whatever. But then again, it's like, well, you kind of want a bigger arena or whatever if you can get one. But yeah, like that same idea. We're in the same city at the same event, Rebellion or whatever it was. I don't know. I don't remember. But yeah, that's the idea. It's 1 year removed from their first encounter and whatnot. So this is the direction. So where are we going to start with Mustafa Ali? How are we going to build him up to that point and get him into that match, in the next 6 months or whatever it is from now? Because he's got to have, like, if you're going to do it, or whoever it is, again, whatever. I'm just using this as an example. That's a very easy example because it's something that I think that they should try to do, But yeah, again, like, how do we get there? Okay, what does Mustafa Ali have to do to get to that position? He doesn't really have to do a lot, but he has to have something to do in the meantime, and, that has to be progressing to that point. I mean, it doesn't literally have to happen in the same way, but it'd be, serendipitous or very cool in some ways for it to happen at the same event and in the same city or whatever, that sort of thing. It's like, planets aligning and things like that. It's very, like a meta commentary on things, like, this was the match, a match that they had like a year ago, blah blah blah, a feud that happened a year ago. A lot has changed, but a lot has remained the same, da 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 da. So yeah, you could like literally do that with anyone and anything, but like, and it's not just saying Ali, what's he gonna do for the next whatever number of months. Then you've got to say, okay, what's Santana gonna do for the next whatever number of months till he gets to that point. Same sort of thing. And then, like again, I thought maybe Ali should win the belt, but I don't know whether that's like the best decision or whatever. I don't know. And again, maybe you ask AI, should, who should be the next TNA World Champion, or who would be the next TNA World Champion? Who is most likely to be TNA Champion, in the next year or whatever? Same sort of thing. Then you've got like a list of people that are, potentially at the top of the company and seeing, okay, well, this is where we could go, So I just think it's a good idea to help, bolster things and help, or even just feed in different metrics. Like if you're TNA or if you're WWE or AEW or anyone, you start saying our wrestler Mike Santana is making this much in ticket sales, is making this much in shirts, da 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 da. All these metrics that you can put into it. Based on these metrics, blah blah blah. What is his like? And this is what whoever. This is what Joe Hendry is bringing in, or this is what the Hardys are bringing in. This is what da 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 da. Like all the deals, all the metrics that you've got. Like, and then say based on these metrics, give us the best people that could, draw big money for events for us. That sort of thing. So those are actually based on numbers, figures, data, not just, my personal feeling or Steve's personal feeling or, whoever's friends with whoever or whatever, that sort of thing. It's based on saying, and maybe that might not be that good because it might be like Jeff Hardy or Matt Hardy are the biggest earners or the biggest, contracted people on the roster, so they'd be the next challengers or whatever, or one of them would be the next challenger. Like that wouldn't make any sense because it's like, they're like, even if you say, oh, well, you could take them out of the tag team scene for a while or whatever, or do something else with them. Yes, but like it wouldn't really make any sense because again, you're having a babyface versus babyface rivalry and what's it really about? Like type thing. There's not much there to write to say why these guys should fight against each other. Why does Jeff Hardy need the world title or Matt Hardy or whoever else need the world title? You need to say why they need it, not just that they're fighting for the prestige of the title, but they're on their last rodeo or something like that. Like, but then you could do that with the tag team titles. That's kind of what they're doing now with the tag team titles. They're on their last rodeo, so to speak. Like that's a great, storyline. And it's a great metaphor as well. It's a great, like, place cap on things to say this is the last, hurrah, this is the last time. Last time is now. Of course, people are going to complain about AI slop or whatever else it is. But like for now, it could be a useful tool. I think that is where you're at. Right? Like you've got to think like, yeah, this is a useful tool. It's not, as I said before, it's not going to take over everything, but we can use it and we can use it as such, like a tool, and say, okay, this is where we're at. This is what we're doing. This is our situation. What could we do from here? Who could we bring in? Da 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 da, that sort of thing. What would be something that will take us to the next level and, whatever. get us that next step. So yeah, I don't think that there is certainly that perspective of don't listen to everything the AI says, or don't just blindly follow exactly what it says, but just clamming for ideas or whatever, or going, hey, let's look at where is our biggest losses, where is our biggest gains, that sort of thing. What could we do to keep this train rolling and do better? Again, going to newer markets or less saturated markets. I said this for many reasons, but like staying in the US, it's a very saturated market. You've got WWE, AEW, and you've got all the indies always going on. So it is certainly a hotbed for wrestling, but it's also it's sort of a drying up well in many ways, where it's like overfed sort of thing. In some ways, you've got so much wrestling all the time. Yeah, like I know there's indie wrestling in Europe and whatnot, and in other places, and even here in Australia, but like a lot of these places are dying to see, mainstream, like high-end professional wrestling, because there are those casual fans that don't really go to see the local indie wrestling because they've never even heard of it, or don't know enough about it, or whatever. And yeah, so you need to get those people to come to your more, mainstream. And I know people say TNA isn't very mainstream, but it's more mainstream than most of the indie product that's out there around the world. So yeah, like certainly those sorts of things, saying what is a major area that would, or who can we talk to, or whatever, that sort of stuff. I still think that those sorts of things also can be useful. So it can be useful in many different ways for the company. I don't just think, that there's one use for it. There's many uses for it. So I do think that they should use it. I do think TNA should adopt the same thing, saying, hey, let's use AI sometimes. Let's not completely rely on it like a crutch, but let's use it sometimes. We can use it as a tool and to help us out, because otherwise, there's only so many hours in the day and in the week and that sometimes, or whatever it is. And there's only so many creative directions that we can kind of, keep going in. But, like if you continue to think, oh, well, if we've already gone and said, this person is one of the other biggest drawers that we've kind of got, like Elijah or whoever, I don't know, and then say, okay, well, we can't do that again, really, because, we've already done that, and it's sort of like, well, going back to the well too many times type thing, and it's like, oh, yeah, this is becoming, a thing where it's like overly done, and it's, what's going on. So yeah, you've got to manage it out and say, okay, yes, that person is able to draw us in a lot of money, but there's a certain point of like diminishing returns, so to speak, because fans have seen enough for a little while. Try to keep them in the main event scene, or try to keep them hot, or try to keep them going, or whatever else it is. But just saying, hey, let's move away from this, in the proper main event, or in the proper title picture for a little while, and then we'll come back to it, 5 or 6 months down the track, or whatever it is, maybe a year down the track again, like, or whatever else it is, because like, or maybe like something else, I don't know, but still, like saying, we can't just keep doing this if we're not going to pull the trigger, or we're not going to put that person into that top spot, because at a certain point fans start to get like, well, obviously this person isn't going to get the trigger pulled on them because they've had a couple of opportunities, and now it's like, oh, okay, this isn't working out, or whatever, because they're just not able to overtake whoever else is like in that 1 or 2 spot, or whatever it is. So yeah, but anyway, guys, I know that you guys probably can know about this stuff, or know about these sorts of things or ideas or what have you, but it is important for me to go through and think through some of these things for the people that don't. So I hope you have enjoyed this one. I hope you join me again in another one.